Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you today how to make StarBeam from Netflix Junior show StarBeam out of gum paste. And don't forget, please like and subscribe. It does help me out. And if you need any tools or supplies that you see me using, if you check the link in the description below, it should be able to help you out. Okay, to begin now with our StarBeam, I'm going to start by making her legs. I took some black gum paste. It's actually more like a really dark gray than solid black, and as you see, I made just a really long round piece out of it. I bent it in half, and those are going to become kind of like her tights, okay? Now that white I'm using, I rolled it into a big old hot dog, cut it in half, and those are going to become her boots. I'm bending and pinching off to the one side to make the flat foot part of her boot, while leaving the rest of it sticking up straight, so it's going to go up over top of the black of the legging. And now I have to be careful too, because you don't want to make the boot too tall. You want it to be tall enough that proportionally it's going to look good. So you're going to see, like, I'm going to put up my fondant paddle over the black to get an idea of where the skirt is going to lay. Because in the pictures that I've seen of her, there's only a little bit of the black legging that shows. So once I got it looking good, see, I was just testing it right there. Once I got it to the right size, then I'm going to put a little piece of dried spaghetti into the leg, add a little water to the boot part that I hollowed out. You saw me use my little ball tool there to hollow it out a bit, so it'll kind of cup around it. Shove it on in there and let it set. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side for the other boot. I did the same thing. I had the other end of my hot dog. I kind of pinched and bent off the one side to make the foot. Make it a little taller, trim it if it was too tall, hollow out the top of it a little bit so it'll go right over that legging. Using a piece of dried spaghetti and a little bit of water, attach them. Now I have the feet kind of sticking up and out to the side because the picture that I saw of her that I kind of liked, she was kind of like, hooray, here I am, look at me, with kind of a spread eagle position going on. So that's what I was doing there. Now I'm going to add the soles of her boots right now. I cut out 2 circles, as you saw, of a nice hot pink color. I kind of shaped them so that they would be more oblong. Rolled them out until they were long enough and thick enough, and then add a little water and stick those babies right on there. And already she's got some fancy little boots there. I'm using that same hot pink that I used just a moment ago to roll it out really thin and cut a really skinny long little stripe out of it. And I'm going to wrap it around the top edge of her boot because her boots are trimmed in that hot pink color too. And if you take the time to, be careful with how you make the boots because they kind of point up in the front of her shin. They're not the same height all the way around. They kind of go up high in the front and then taper down lower toward the back. I tried to do it. I kind of lost the effect a bit. But hey, get the E for effort. All right, now I've got my sky blue color here. This is all gum paste, by the way, because I do want this to harden. Rolled out nice and thin, kind of cut out a trapezoid kind of shape or rhombus. I forget. Geometry was too long ago. But anyway, wrap it around her waist so you get enough of the boot and enough of the leggings showing. You don't want to cover up too much. You want just a little bit showing between the two. Wrap it around to taper it up, and then I just trimmed off any extra at the top there. Now the same color blue I'm going to make into her torso. As you saw, I just kind of rolled and flattened it so it's the same width as the hips on the waist there. And I just trimmed it off because she's got a very tiny little torso. She is definitely not anatomically correct. Her head, I measured it out, and her head is like the size of her shoulders down to her feet. It's like enormous. So she's got a tiny little body is what I'm getting at here. I'm going to give her her little hot pink belt, just another thin stripe rolled out long and skinny. And now I am trying my best to freehand cut a star. I know her belt isn't quite accurate. It's supposed to be a lot skinnier, but I am just not that good. So yeah, you get what you get, right? All right, I just cut out kind of like a W shape there from the front of her shirt. It's going to get filled in with the black, so you're going to see that in a moment. And it reminded me, I don't know how many people out there watch Gravity Falls, but there was an episode where instead of having a V-neck, one of the characters cut his shirts into W necks, and this is exactly what it reminded me of, because you can have that little peak sticking up in the middle that eventually her star logo will fit into. But for now, you're going to have your W neck and fill it in with a little bit of black, just like that. All right, now I'm going to take this white and we're going to work on her little jacket. I rolled it out really thin and just kind of cut it off at the bottom so I'll have a straight edge. And when you wrap it around her, you got to leave it pretty exposed in the front. You don't want to cover too much, and you also want it to sit above the belt. There's a little bit of area between her belt and the bottom hem of the jacket, so don't put it down too low either. And you gotta give her enough at the top so she can pop that collar because she is rocking that 90s look. Okay, so once you get it all trimmed off to a nice length, flip the front of the collar over, and there you go. You got her jacket well begun. This is going to become the star logo on her shirt. So there is a hot pink. I just so happened to have a flower mold that was a 5-pointed one or 5-petaled one. So I was like, yes, cheating the system here. When any shortcuts you can take, do it, man. I cut out white in the same size as the other flower, and I am trimming between it, cutting out little triangles to make it more defined as a star. And I also cut off the tip of each star because everything on her is very rounded. There's really no sharp angles. So then stick that on top, and now her little star is outlined. Later on, I am going to go over it with some water on my paintbrush, and I'm going to add a couple dots of different colors from my food markers and just kind of paint it over with the water to try to get that kind of shimmery rainbow effect that's on there. You'll see it in the picture. I thought I recorded it, but it turned out it didn't, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. In the meantime, I just added the 3 little stripes that come out of her star logo onto her shirt. All right, moving on now to her arms. I have dried spaghetti, as you can see, sticking in there, looking kind of like a scarecrow or something. And I have some of that same dark gray gum paste. Put it on the spaghetti, roll it real nice and skinny. She's got skinny little arms, so try to keep them real thin. When I get them to the nice thinness that I like, then I trim it down so it's not too long. Stick it in. The second arm doing the same exact thing. Wrap it in the, I'm going to call it black, even though it's not black. Wrap it in the black gum paste. Trim it down so it's nice and skinny. Make it the same length, compare the one to the other. And then when you get it to a good size, good length, good shape, stick it on in there. Now I'm working on her sleeves there. I took some of that same sky blue, rolled it real thin, cut out a rectangle, wrapped it around the base of the arm, and then an even thinner piece of white to wrap around that. This is to give the, she's got her jacket with the short sleeves over her, I don't know, jumper, shirt, whatever you want to call it, with the slightly longer sleeves. So that kind of layered effect is coming through there. Do the same thing on the other side. No surprises there. This is going to be the kind of white ruffly cuff that she has on her shirts. I rolled out my white gum paste. I left it a little thicker this time and cut out a couple small circles that are just wider than the arms themselves. Using my knife blade, I just put a bunch of marks, a bunch of lines all around the sides, and then add a little bit of water, shove it right over top of that spaghetti stick and down onto the arm. And now she's got her cuffs. So she's coming together. Now this figure that I'm making, I'm focusing mainly on the front. She is technically a 3D character, but the way I'm making her though, she's kind of thin. She doesn't have a lot of substance to her. I'm going to be putting out another video later this week that shows the cake I'm going to put her on, but for now I'm just going to show you this part of her. If you let her dry, you certainly could have her standing. You would have to have some kind of support attached to the back of her. She's too thin like this in order to support weight, to have like a lollipop stick or something run up through the figure itself. It would distort it, she's just too skinny for that. If you do want to do something like that, just make the same darn thing here. Just make her a little fatter. That'll work. No problems there. In the meantime, though, she's a little thin, and I'm going to go, she's more of a very, very dimensional 2D character. She's like 2.5D. Okay, as I'm rambling, I made a couple of hands. I had made circles and just cut out 4 lines to make the thumbs and the fingers, round them off and stick them on. Just make sure you be careful where your thumbs go. You don't want 2 left hands or 2 right hands. I added a lollipop stick into the neck, and I'm just wrapping a piece of that beige color around the lollipop stick to make her neck, because she does have a nicely defined neck. And here comes the ginormous head. I love to make these cartoon characters. I think they're a lot of fun, but they kill me with the size of these heads. They're so big and so heavy. Like, I just don't even know. These artists obviously don't consider someone might try to sculpt these things. Anyway, I'm rambling. Anyway, her head is kind of a square. It's just a nicely rounded off square. It's a little bit on the taller side than it is wide, so keep that in mind if you are going to make this. I'm using my ball tool there. I made two kind of oblong circles there, ovals, I guess you might call them. Oblong circles or ovals. For the eyes, and I am using the small ball on the tool that I'm using there to make the mouth. The mouth is pretty big. And also be careful of the location of the eyes. They sit more kind of centered in the head, you know, as far as up and down wise. And the mouth takes up most of the rest of the bottom of the head. She's got really big eyes and a really big mouth. Now, after I hollowed it out, as you saw, I filled it in with a little piece of black. I'm adding a little bit of red there at the bottom for the tongue. Okay, now pretend you don't see this part. I jumped ahead and added the mask to her, thinking that I was doing the right thing, and it turns out she's wearing the wrong color mask, so just pretend it's not there. And in the meantime, focus on those teeth I'm adding. It's just a white rectangle, nice and thin, so it just covers the top, and leave the two sides exposed, so there's black on either side of her teeth. Okay, now we're going to go back to the mask, because obviously everybody knows she wears a hot pink mask, duh. So I took it out, I rolled it really thin, and I kind of tapered it in the middle a little bit on the top and bottom so it would kind of curve around more of the eyes, or no, between the eyes, I guess, and above the nose. I added a little ball of gum paste for the nose. I just pressed down with my ball tool on top of the mask to fill in the holes for the eyes, and then I added the white of the eyes on top of that. I made two little holes in the white in order to add purple gum paste because she has purple eyes. No idea why. Maybe she's related to Elizabeth Taylor. Who knows? Anyway, a little bit of black in the center, and then I added a couple highlights to each eye of white. I added two pink there for the jacket, pink little lines for the jacket. And as I'm jumping all over the place, I decided it's time to add her hair. So I kind of made a triangle shape here, you see. And I went chop, 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 chop with my knife to add some lines for hair texture. And this is going to become her sideburn. So I am attaching it very carefully to the side so it goes just beneath the edge of the mask. It doesn't go all the way down real low or anything, so be careful of your placement there. And I'm doing the same thing to the other side. I'm just taking a piece of gum paste, measuring it out, make sure it comes down to the right distance just past the mask, and leave some space open behind it too. That's why I went with the triangle, so behind that sideburn is still her exposed head. I added a couple ears into that exposed area. It was just two balls of gum paste, just pressed down in the center to kind of make like a letter C. Gotta love the simplicity of these cartoon characters' ears. Okay, now I'm doing more of the hair. It's just another triangle, a much longer one, so I'm covering the whole top of the head, and it peeks out to the side over her right eyebrow a little bit off to the side there, you see? And this last piece I'm adding is kind of like a W or a fish's tail or something, with a little bit longer on the one side that goes toward her ear, and a shorter piece in the middle there that just kind of comes down the center of her forehead. And there you go. Looking good, right? Okay. Now we're going to add her little pigtails. I've got two balls of black. You see the other one sitting there. I cut two lines in it, so now I've got three little points that I kind of rounded off and made nice and smooth and separated a bit. Add my lines for the details, chop off the one end so it'll fit up against her head. Using my good old lollipop sticks and water, shove it into her brain. There you go. Going to do the same thing now for the other one. Cut two little slices in it, make the center into a little bit of a point, make sure it's not too sharp and pointy. Add my lines with my knife blade just to get some detail of the hair in there. I'm going to trim off the little bottom part, as you see. Stick it in with a piece of dried spaghetti. Ba-bam. Okay, she's looking like a StarBeam now. And you may have noticed she was already wearing a cape. Yeah, I thought I recorded it, but my battery died, and so I went back to show you again. I just rolled out pink into a long triangle and then stuck it to the back of her. I'm using an edible food coloring marker to draw a couple of stars, one star on each of her little boots there. Let her dry and set up, and you will have StarBeam. So, I hope you found this video helpful. Please check out my many other videos that I got out there. I'll have another one of her cake coming out soon, so wait for that. Look forward to it. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.